In the name of the one loving, faithful God. Amen. Please be seated. In reading 2 Timothy, I'm grateful to God, as my ancestors were. I think of my grandmothers, Hilda and Anna, and my mother, Gwendolyn. In Paul's letter in 2 Timothy, it's a personal reflection about pursuing more enriching lives in service to God. Many delight, as I do, in hearing of the sincere faith passed on by his grandmother named Lois and a mother named Eunice. Women have always done so much to help pass the faith on. And I'm sure if I asked you, who in your family helped pass the faith on? Was there a special grandmother or mother that you could name? Do I hear any names? It's not many. I'm expecting you to pass the faith on. Sometimes when faith is not passed on, family members can become very upset that they did not succeed in passing on the faith traditions, especially grandparents and parents. They think there are failures because their children or grandchildren do not attend church on a regular basis. The question is, how do we rekindle the gift of God that was planted long ago in persons when young? Lack of faith transmissions through family leaves some with a sense of failure as to why their children do not attend church. As I was rearranging my library, I came across a book called Will Our Children Have Faith? Many children, including our children and grandchildren, are more into doing other things on Sunday morning, like going to brunch or playing video games or gaming. We are not alone in seeing what is happening on a weekly basis until a crisis occurs, like a school shooting, a neighborhood shooting, a terrible accident, or a beloved family member dies. I used to have a family calling me from overseas to ask me if their children were coming to church. To ask me. So I would make a call periodically and say to these college-age young men, church is at 9 o'clock tomorrow, and they would show up. Sometimes we just have to remind people. Luke's gospel refers to the mustard seed, a very, very tiny seed, because this amazing seed can produce great amounts of mustard. How many people like mustard? I like mustard too. It teaches us that with little things, we can accomplish great things with limited resources. I once made homemade mustard for Christmas gifts. Having limited resources, it's very inexpensive to make, and it was wonderful. I was living in Pennsylvania where everyone ate pretzels dipped in mustard. It was really good. I like to think that every little thing we do when a grandchild or when a child is with us, it will help to instill the faith of a God in his Son Jesus, who will love them wherever they are. The love of Jesus can follow where the road or career path takes them, in good times or bad. Jesus' love is not limited to the confines of a building on Sunday morning. Now, every time a crisis has occurred in our country, we hear about it, and suddenly we remember God. As the hurricane came ashore this week, especially in Florida, we heard people express the need for prayer when they were powerless. Some churches have become shelters for those who had lost power and had lost everything. People had lost everything. Luke's gospel reminds us this day, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, as Jesus said to his disciples, that is all you need. There are times when out of the blue, at unexpected times, I will hear a family member use one of my expressions. That was a God moment. Like when no daycare had an opening and suddenly one opened for our child. Or when a family in Florida was told to prepare for the storm and they secured their home, and come morning they were safe. The storm had passed over their home. They considered it a God moment in their lives. We all have God moments, and we could share some today at coffee hour. For some, it's just the fact that you arrived here in one piece this morning in all the fog and the dreariness of this day. It's good to remember that God is ever present in our lives and the lives that we have tried to instill the faith. Sometimes we have to just live long enough to see that faith come through to those that we've tried to instill it to. So never give up. Just one tiny word. Yesterday we had a young man here named Francis, and I informed him that Francis was from St. Francis, the patron saint that we celebrate this week, the patron saint of the animals and of nature and of all the things that we value, that we celebrated yesterday. So sometimes it's as simple as saying, if somebody is named Frankie, tell them it's from Francis. If their name is Francis, and explain to them the derivative of the word and try to share your faith with them so they can become more like Jesus. Doesn't take a lot. You don't have to go around sprouting biblical verses to people, but just the tiniest little thing can help people to the faith tradition. And once again, the hardest thing for people to do is come through the doors of a church. So we must invite people to join us. Not just this day, but every day. Amen.